Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Ice Cream Uploads here on Thursday, the 15th of June. Your eyes do not deceive you. It is genuinely 10 a.m.-ish. It's 13 minutes past 10 as it stands right now. We went live, I don't know, 7-8 minutes ago now, obviously with all the countdown stuff, the infomercials, blah, 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 blah. But yes, we are live nice and early this morning. Basically, because we've got an afternoon jam-packed, not an ICU, but we've got an afternoon jam-packed of meetings and external clients coming in. So yes, we are trying to get this out of the way as early as possible so that we can try and free up our afternoon to be able to do actual real work stuff. But that isn't getting in the way of the scoop right now. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is the UK's #1 video game podcast, even if we do say so ourselves, and we go live each and every single weekday at 10 a.m. Confirmed. Again, we are live today within the 10 a.m. region, which is probably the first time in the longest time since we've been able to do this. But as I say, we work in the video games industry, so the work stuff comes first, obviously, because that is the thing that pays the bills and makes me want to keep my house and my child and obviously my wife. So yes, we have got some news for you to be able to go through today. We have got 4 news stories. I am going to fly through them because I need to be out of this vicinity in the next hour or so. So I do apologize if we don't spend too long on things. We literally need to get it through, get your thoughts and impressions, get my thoughts and impressions, and then we can move on to the next one. It's going to be a drive-by-ish type show today. But at least we're still bringing you one. Do you know what I mean? We have tried to bring you one for the last 2 weeks, each and every single weekday. And sometimes we failed. We've managed to get out free so far this week, and we're 4 days in, so we're not doing too bad just yet. We're not doing too bad. But if you are watching this live on Twitch, do get involved in the chat. As well as that, if you are watching or listening to this after the show's aired on Twitch, congratulations, you found us on one of our many video on demand services or our podcast services that include YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Anchor.fm, and also Amazon Music. There we go. We got there eventually. But yeah, again, thank you very much for joining us today. Again, it is just me, and it will be for at least another 10 days or so. This is what we call the dollop. We don't usually spend that much time doing it anyway, because obviously the back and forth that me and Graham have during this podcast obviously does make this show a little bit longer and a little bit more filled out, shall we say, as obviously we have 2 discussions going on at the same time. But again, we have 4 news stories today, and obviously the lead story that we've gone with for today is that the PlayStation 5 cloud gaming streaming, cloud game stream. This doesn't read right, so I'm gonna make the title right. Okay, so PlayStation 5 is getting cloud streaming very, very soon. The title doesn't seem to make much sense to me, but then again, nothing really does. And then we've got some Dead Island 2 news, the roadmap as to where that game is going. Microsoft signs deal with Outriders studio People Can Fly with a new Xbox game. And also, we've got some Skyrim news, because obviously Skyrim, the greatest game to ever grace this earth, set new records in 12 years after its release. So we're not gonna dilly-dally. We're not gonna fanny about. We're gonna get straight into the video game news today. And this has been written by Tom Phillips over at Eurogamer, and he states that the PlayStation 5 cloud game streaming coming to PlayStation subscribers in the early stages of testing. It's been a year since Sony relaunched its PlayStation Plus subscription service with multiple tiers, and today there is a word of upcoming new features, PlayStation 5 game streaming. There is no release date yet, just a word that Sony is testing the technology of PlayStation 5 titles, including those in subscription service catalogs and others that you may own. And to be clear, this will be a premium tier benefit, so you won't get it if you're on a regular old PlayStation Plus Essentials or the extra service. We think it's important for premium members to be able to enjoy as many games as possible via cloud streaming, Sony exec Nick McGuire says. As more games continue to launch on the PlayStation 5, we look forward to adding more cloud streaming capability for the PlayStation 5 titles, in addition to the PlayStation 3, 4, and classic titles that are already available for premium members to stream. We are in the early stages right now, and we can't wait to share more details with you when it's ready, including the launch timeframe. Alongside June's PlayStation Plus games lineup, Sony also said that it was celebrating this anniversary of the service by holding a free online multiplayer weekend, so you don't have to be subscribed. Well, what a way to be able to kick off the show today. That's some spectacular news if you are on the PlayStation side of things and you want to be able to play your games portably. Obviously, it wasn't that long ago that we had the PlayStation conference where they went on to show us a brand new product that they're bringing out to the market. I can't remember when it is. I don't know if it's going to be 2023 or 2024, but we have a new... we have a subscriber. Says 12 head. Thank you very much for your tier 1 subscription. I mean, to be fair, it's £4.49 to you, and we'll probably get like a quid of it because Twitch are just taking all of the monies. But again, nevertheless, we appreciate you parting with your hard-earned cash. 12. Thank you very much for that. You didn't join in that mess yesterday. That was the PUBG Pro Club stuff, was it? I'm only playing. I love those guys. I haven't actually managed to catch much of the PUBG Pro Club stuff all that often because you seem to play obviously when I'm heading to bed because I'm a very early. Did I fuck? But yeah, in terms of the PlayStation direction and where they're going, obviously the best thing to try and emulate at this moment is Xbox Game Pass. It's the best value for money in video games right now. If you want to be able to play as many games as possible for a low price, obviously Xbox Game Pass is the way to be able to do it. Not just necessarily for the first-party games, because obviously they have been being nice, quite toilet for the last 18 months, 2 years or so. They haven't really stuck the landing with the games that they brought out for the Xbox Series S and X. There has been some games that have landed well. Obviously, the likes of the latest Forza Horizon game. We're not going to talk much about Halo. We're definitely not going to talk much about Redfall. But in terms, they have got some fantastic IPs that they want to be able to bring out, work on, and hopefully stick the landing. So PlayStation trying to replicate what they're doing over there is obviously good news for PlayStation players to be able to try and get the best out of your subscription, whether or not you have to go from Essentials, which I think is about 6 or 7 quid a month, to the Premium, which is about 15. Obviously, they're bringing out some peripherals for you to be able to do that, as well as being able to do it on your PlayStation Vita, your laptop. I can do remote play from this now. The peripheral of them being able to have that Asus ROG, Steam Deck, Nintendo Switch experience is obviously something that will cost you a premium too. So they are getting there. I don't think this is going to be a wild success straight out the gate. I think they've got a long way to go with this, whether or not that's going to be in this generation or the next one. I don't think cloud gaming, especially over in the UK, is quite there yet. There's a lot of households in the UK that are still on between 40 and 60 download, maybe 10 to 30 upload, which isn't great, especially if you are like someone that wants to get into and have video game streaming as your primary outlet of being able to play video games. It's not the greatest. In my house now, obviously, we have the ability to be able to do that quite well with the internet speeds that we've got, but the majority of the UK houses don't have that kind of fibre lines being put through. You probably drove around the UK with roads being dug up left, right and centre, or pathways being dug up so that they can put the new cables down and into the junction boxes for people to be able to have that put to their home. Luckily, that happened for us about a year ago now. But the likes of Graham in the outskirts of Salford, that hasn't quite happened for him just yet. And that, with him being so close to Manchester as well, you'd expect that to be one of the first places that they got, but he hasn't. So this isn't going to be the norm yet. Maybe not in this console generation, but PlayStation are obviously working their way towards first place in terms of what Xbox are offering, which is Game Pass, which is, again, their best subscription model that's in video games right now. 12 says, I've got a job unlike most of them bums. Jesus. Gagad says, good morning, Bibby and chat. Good morning. Jenkins, I love the studio and the bibster of fucking course. I mean, have a look at this for a t-shirt. Like, go on, I'll give you a little stand up and a little twirl. Have a look at that bad boy. Bam! Little twirl. Bam! Little twirl again. Bam! Looking good. It's got like leopards and shit on it. I mean, not actual leopard shit, but we've got some leopards on there. But yeah, I love this shirt. This is one of my favorite ones. It's nice and thin as well because I've got a lot of these like flowery type shirts, you know, outrageous ones, and some of them are really thick. So if you wear a t-shirt underneath like I do, because I like to have it nice and open, nice and breezy, having the thin one, it definitely does help rather than the thick one, because you know you get dead hot. I also ordered some. Everywhere I go, people start talking to me, and I love it. There you go, mate. That's what I mean. You walk down the street and go, "That I love that shirt." And you're like, "Fucking dead right, mate." Of course you do. But yeah, literally when it gets to summer, I've got like 40 of these in my drawer. get them all out on the washing line. You've probably seen it on my social media over the last couple of weeks or so. Get them all out, get them washed, get them in the drawer, ready for whenever I need them. But enough about my fantastic shirts. We've got some more video game news to go through. So, for those of you that have played Dead Island, this is going to be right up your street. So, written on VGC by Tom Ivan, he goes on to say that the Dead Island 2 roadmap details 2 story expansions, and free and premium character packs have also been released. He goes on to say that Deep Silver has provided new details on Dead Island 2's upcoming story expansions. The first expansion, House, will arrive in the 4th quarter of 2023, and the second, Solar Festival, will be in the 2nd quarter of 2024. Both expansions are included in the game's $29.99 or $24.99 expansion pass. I'm just seeing if this is... Yeah, okay, so the story expansion is expansion 1, which is the... I've literally just read it out. House will feature... It says, how does a billionaire prepare the zombie apocalypse? A techno-death cult with a healthy splash of debauchery and gore. The first expansion, House, will be released in Q4 2023, and then the expansion 2 goes on to say, welcome to the Solar Festival, where LA's party people can greenwash their way to ecstasy and save the planet, one rave at a time. So LA Solar Festival will launch in Q2 2024. Earlier this week, Deep Silver released a set of free skins that will unlock once players reach certain milestones. It also launched a Hella Catwalk collection, which includes 6 premium character packs. One of each comes with a skin for the Slayer named in the pack, plus a weapon that can be used on any of the Slayers in the collection. Almost after a decade as it was first revealed, Dead Island 2 released in May and surpassed 1 million sales in its first weekend of availability, according to Deep Silver. And there's a look at what both of the expansions are going to feature, with the House and the Solar Festival taking place. So I'm going to be honest, I haven't finished Dead Island 2 yet. Obviously, there's been a lot of games that have been around. This game coming out, obviously the PGA expansion so the new club pass for PGA, Lego 2K came out. There's been games on the channel that obviously we've been streaming, and games that I've been playing away from stream too. This is obviously one that I'm going to go back to very, very soon, because I feel like I think I've finished a couple of the other games that I had on the back burner. So this is one back into rotation again. I do love Dead Island 2. I don't think it's as good as the first one, and obviously Riptide. I feel like Dead Island had its time and a place way back in the early stages, or the mid stages of the Xbox 360 generation or the PlayStation 3 generation. I feel like we've probably moved on from games like Dead Island. That doesn't mean to say that Dead Island isn't one of my favorite franchises when it comes to video games. I love Dead Island. I think this game is fantastic. I just think there's a lot of tweaks that need to take place in the game to try and make it as good as the original 2, which, to be honest, I think that's what we've come to expect from video games nowadays. A lot of them, I'm not going to go as far as to say half-baked, but I believe that a lot of them, when they get released, are probably 75 to 85% complete, and then they have to do all of the tweaking, I don't think that... This feels like I'm having a go at the likes of Deep Silver, but I'm genuinely not. I feel like the quality of QA testing has potentially gone down a little bit, and that's not a dig at the people who are obviously testing the games. They do a fantastic job. I just feel like there needs to be more of them, and there needs to be probably... If you're having a AAA experience like this, and I don't know how many people have tested this, but how many it is, just double them for AAA games if that's the case, because it's harming their sales. I mean, it hasn't really harmed the sales with this, because they've sold 1 million on release weekend, which is a fantastic number, and I'm so happy for Deep Silver and the Dead Island team that that they've managed to sell this much, because, again, I would love to see a Dead Island 3. I would like this to go on, because there's so many more stories that they can tell in different locations, with different weapons. The weapons that you get in this are obviously not completely different, but are a step up from what we got with the first 2 games. So there's so many more things that they can do with the Dead Island franchise, and I hope to God that they end up doing more of them, because, again, I do love the franchise. We just need to start finessing some things before they come out of the door, because having game crashes and massive glitches and saves not saving properly and corrupted data files and things like that, that shouldn't be happening for AAA games. And I know we're in a world where games have massive downloads on day one to try and sort out the patches from the discs being printed and sent over to our homes. I'm glad that that process is in place now, because there was nothing worse than buying a PlayStation 2 game or a PlayStation 1 game, an original Xbox game, where you didn't have these patches to try and fix the games that were completely broken on launch. You just had to deal with it. And if you enjoyed it to a point where the gameplay was a little bit irrelevant, then you just couldn't bear it. But we're at a point, obviously, now where you're going to get a 30, 40, 50 gigabyte download when you put that disc in, because there might only be 20 gigs on the disc. Some cases, was it Tony Hawk's 4? Where there was literally like the demo, which might have been a gigabyte on the disc, and then you had to download the other 60 gigabytes. Like, that's the world that we're living in now, regardless of whether we buy physical or digital. So I hope to God that they continue pushing out with this, and I hope to God I will be buying the expansion passes for both of these expansions, because I want to be able to give something back. Obviously, we did get Dead Island 2 for free, and I'm extremely grateful that we're in a position where a lot of devs reach out to us, a lot of publishers reach out to us and go, do you want to play this game on your stream? And I'm like, absolutely. Obviously, we do disclose at the time whether or not it is an ad or not. But me being able to put some money back into this to be able to try and establish, hopefully, a Dead Island 3, 100% I'm going to be doing that one. I want to be able to try and support these devs and publishers as much as I possibly can. See, the worst thing about doing a podcast on your own is that you don't get any drinks breaks. There's no one, there's like, usually I'd stop there, Graham would pick up the mantle, I'm able to get a drink, but no, there's just dead silence when it's not here. But yeah, I'm super looking forward to seeing what those expansions bring, whether or not they bring some new gameplay elements or something like that. I can't see that being the case, but some finessing of the game itself would be very welcomed. Anyway, our next news article, written then on VGC by Tom Ivan. He goes on to say that Microsoft signs deal with Outriders studio People Can Fly for a new Xbox game. Codenamed Project Maverick will have between $30 to $50 million budget, which, for what I'd guess to be a new AAA game, I don't think that's a lot of money. Anyway, Microsoft and People Can Fly have signed a deal for a new Xbox game. In a regulatory release, the Polish studio said codename Project Maverick will be fully funded by IP owners Microsoft and will have between $30 and a $50 million budget. The developer behind Gears of War Judgment, Bulletstorm, and most recently Outriders said it concluded a production and publishing agreement with Microsoft for a AAA game on Tuesday. People Can Fly, which celebrated 20th anniversary in 2022, was owned by Epic Games from 2012 to 2015 and also developed the PC port of the original Gears of War and has also worked on Fortnite too. In July 2020, People Can Fly announced that it was working on an original AAA title led by its New York studio and the director of Just Cause 3. The company described the project as highly ambitious, groundbreaking action-adventure title, which will also be contributed by its Warsaw Rezo. Someone phonetic that out for me because I have completely butchered that. And also Newcastle Studios. Announced for consoles and PC and streaming platforms, the game was being led by creative director Roland Lesterin and the studio director David Grisions at Avalanche, New York. Lesterin previously directed Just Cause 3, while Grisions served as the game's executive producer. I apologize for butchering a city's name and also a person's name, but you know, I'm not that literate, which you can probably tell or have realized by now. But a new People Can Fly game, a AAA game for 30 to 50 million. I don't know if that's a risk. And again, that's not a slant on the team over at People Can Fly, because Just Cause, fantastic. Gears of War Judgment, I thought that was a decent game. Bulletstorm, the first one, I absolutely loved. But Outriders was just not... mechanically it was decent. I just didn't think that it had the pulling power to bring you back every single day, or expansions that would have that creativity in your mind to want to be able to jump back in and get invested in. There's only certain games that have that staying power that want you to be able to come back as a live service game. And I say certain games, there is many of them out there now as a live service, but I don't think Outriders scratched the itch. I don't think it was something new that we haven't seen before, and I think that's why the likes of VGC here, for instance, give it a 2 stars out of 5, and I do think that's that was echoed. There was a lot of people who was being made partner of that game before it came out, in terms of streamers, to obviously try and promote the game in the best light. And they did their best. Obviously, they might have played it for 2 or 3 weeks. They advertised that they were a partner of that game. And then, unfortunately, for whatever reason, whether or not it's just because they didn't resonate with it, they finished it and didn't have that much end game to be able to do on it. It just fallen by the wayside. And I do believe as a live service game, if you don't already have those content plans in place where they're going to hit hard and hit fast, that's where you kind of lose ground, and then people forget about it. It's a shit thing. It's a shit thing in video games, especially as live service, that people will just forget about your game if it doesn't, scratch the itches that they need when they finish work and they come home and think, what am I going to play? That needs to be the forefront of their mind, and I don't think they quite activated that little node in your brain to have this at the forefront of people's minds, which is a shame. But I believe that they have another banger in them. I believe that this next game, whatever it's going to be, with a budget like that, I think it's going to be decent. Hopefully, again, they can stick the landing. I think I've used that analogy quite a few times within this podcast so far, but that's what it boils down to. Unfortunately, it's a shit world we live in when it comes to video games, that you literally have to make sure that everything is absolutely perfect, because one small thing and it will get scrutinized. With the likes of podcasts obviously like ourselves, we try to be impartial. We try to not just necessarily sit on the fence, but try to take the positives out of all the negatives that are surrounding it. But essentially, we are classed as journalists, whether or not we want to class ourselves as that. We are giving you video game news with our thoughts and impressions, with your guys' thoughts and impressions too. So that technically it almost makes us journalists at this point, especially when we have over 160,000 people listening to this podcast since its inception. We do believe that we have some sway and influence within that as well. So again, we'll have to try and take as many positives as we can, and I hope to God that they end up sticking the landing with this one. I will be keeping a very keen eye on this, because I did with Outriders. I just hope that they end up doing something better with this one. We have one more news story for you today, and it is one that I love to be able to talk about, because it is one of, if not my greatest and favorite game of all time. Let's just make this full screen on here so you can see it. Written over at Game Rant, Miguel Luis LLADO says that Skyrim hits new sales record 12 years after its release. Bethesda's massive hit, The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, achieves yet another significant milestone 12 years after its initial release. Now, I know there's people in this chat. I know there's people that are going to be listening to this podcast service. I know there's going to be people watching this over on YouTube after it's dead going, Bibby, all you fucking do is talk about Skyrim. It's because I know that you haven't played it. Otherwise, you would just be talking about Skyrim. We mentioned Avowed earlier on this week. It feels like a spiritual successor at this point to what Skyrim is, in between Elder Scrolls 6 coming out in probably 3 years' time. So it'll be 15 years between releases, but by God, are we hopefully going to get something magical then? But if it has even half the success what Skyrim has, then we're going to be in for an absolute belter. But anyway, I digress. Skyrim has just reached a new sales record 12 years after its first release. With Skyrim having been ported to multiple platforms over the years, it's no wonder that the milestones and achievements have attained to continue to grow. The award-winning title was first released in 2011 to critical acclaim for the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and PC. Genuinely, I might have already told you guys as well, but when it did come out in 2011, I remember shopping with me and the wife in Asda, and I thought, oh shit, I'll go out and get it. I was going to go to Game, but we was already there. They had it in stock. Bosh, got it, took it home, played it for like 2 days, just didn't resonate with it. It just didn't have a great launch. It wasn't the best launch. It was clunky. It was boring, essentially. And obviously now it's a completely different game. Like the amount of work that's been gone into it, especially if you're playing modded versions over on the PC. I digress. The famed action role-playing game has been one of the primest examples of how games in the genre should be made. Skyrim's open-world design is considered to be one of the best in gaming history. This is part of the reason why a 12-year-old title continues to have successful sales, and there's still a lot more secrets to uncover from the vast regions and locations where players still spend time in-game. During the interview with Bethesda, Todd Howard regarding Starfield has mentioned the Skyrim sales record achieved in passing. At the 13th minute mark, Howard mentioned that the game has officially sold, get this, 60 million copies in its 12-year run. With this information, it's in mind, Games Radar has further confirmed that Skyrim is currently officially the 7th best-selling game of all time, ranked just below Tetris, Minecraft, Mario Kart 8, and Grand Theft Auto 5, to name a few. In more cases than one, it seems that many consider Skyrim to be one of the best games of the decade. Its legacy is unmatched and has served a blueprint for some of the best games to come out after it. As Skyrim is currently available on 8 platforms, spanning 3 generations of gaming, there is a case to be made that the sales may continue to soar even further, perhaps even when Elder Scrolls 6 becomes available in the future. As it stands, many players enjoy returning to the lands of Skyrim due to its memorable gameplay it provides. Some even replay it and repurchase the game just to provide new experiences, quality of life improvement, interesting mods, and even VR usage as just some of the features that Skyrim has developed and released on new generations of console. Skyrim VR is one of, I think that's the only version that I've never played. I've never played it in VR. I think I would be sick, to be honest. I think the motion sickness within that, being able to use my sword and shield, or use my two-handed sword, or a staff, I think the speed of it might end up fucking with my head a little bit. So I would like to probably try it for like 10 minutes, but I don't think it would be my primary way of playing that game. With new technology continuing to develop, it's not much of a surprise that the game continues to soar in charts. Bethesda enjoys the fanfare of the title continue to garner, and the team enjoys experimenting with the IP as well, such as the case with Amazon's Alexa version, which is more of an Easter egg than an official port. I did not know that existed, so I'll be trying that out. Still, the title continues to be the center of the best-selling IPs of Bethesda, and as expected, the company will continue to celebrate its success, providing gamers with more ways to experience Skyrim. The Elder Scrolls Skyrim, hold this, Anniversary Edition is out now for PlayStation 4, 5, PC, Switch, Xbox One, and Xbox Series S and X. Now, the original Skyrim was obviously available on the Xbox 360 and also the PlayStation 3, so genuinely, if you have a console newer than the PlayStation 2, chances are you're going to be able to play this on something. So I genuinely implore you, if you have a PlayStation, if you have a PC, if you have an Xbox and you have Game Pass and you have never played this game before, I encourage you to get on there and play the special edition. If you haven't played it, what you're playing at. If you have played it and haven't played games like Enderall, go onto Steam. If you already have Skyrim Special Edition on there, download Enderall because it is free. It's a completely different game using the Skyrim engine and everything that's beautiful that takes place within that engine. You're going to be in for a very, very good time. Skyrim, again, one of the greatest games that have ever existed or is going to exist. Again, I genuinely can't tell you enough to go ahead and play that one. Especially if you're not someone that just wants to experience brand new graphics. Like, obviously this game has a PlayStation 5 version. It has PC versions that you can have all the way up to ultra settings. And for me, it still looks absolutely beautiful. But Gray won't play it. I mean, he doesn't play anything else other than PUBG. Gray won't play it because he says it looks like a PlayStation 4 game, which I can get because during battle it looks beautiful. If you are on if you are in certain places, shall we say, College of Winterhold, for instance, if you're at the top of there and you look down, it looks fantastic. But yeah, if you are looking for an RPG, get yourself in there. You can't go wrong. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is today's episode of The Scoop. We have flown through the 4 stories, as I mentioned at the top of the show. We do have some external clients coming in about the next... What time is it now? In like the next half an hour. So I wanted to make sure that we get a show out for you guys, give you some news, make sure we give you some coverage, make sure we give you some content to be able to digest on whether or not you're walking the dog, working, or just sat at home in your pants watching me and on your big TV in your front room. In that case, I give you a 12 before. Enjoy that one. But we will be back tomorrow live from my office space in Manchester as we give you the last and final show of the week. Obviously, there was no Chasing Craze from H yesterday. It is Father's Day on Sunday, so I will be streaming tomorrow night over on twitch.tv/Ice Cream Uploads right here. Around about 7 o'clock, we're going to be playing some PGA. Because we've got some clubhouse stuff to be able to do. We've got some ranked matchmaking. And if anyone else wants to be able to join me on the course, add me up on PlayStation 5, bros. We've got Babinho. That's my gamer tag. Get me added up, and we'll probably take to some duos ranked. We can do that. or we can just play a good old football or whatever it is. But that is it for today's episode of The Scoop. If you want to help shape tomorrow's show, there is 2 ways that you can do so. First of all, find us on social media. It is at Ice Cream Uploads across all major social media platforms, or alternatively, get involved with our Discord. Do stick around. We will send you over to one of our friends who's currently streaming. Show them some love as you have shown me today. And as always, guys, there's one thing that we want you to do, and that, my friends, is to stay frosty.